In a hidden, dark burrow
lived a fox named Jeff.
Now Jeff didn't like to come out very much,
especially not during the day.
More often than not, he would sleep,
often whilst gazing out of his bed.
On one such occasion, whilst letting his eyes scan the heavens above, he spotted a star in the sky. It reminded him of the Star of Bethlehem.
Jeff loved stargazing,
but he knew there was something special about this star.
Without hesitation, he inquisitively followed the star, climbing out of his burrow. As he walked, a trail of footsteps were left through the pathway of snow-laden forest trees. Jeff had never walked so far before. He ventured further and further out of his neighbourhood and his comfort zone. Just then,
there was a rustling in the distance. It slowly became louder.
Looking up, he could see a red robin hopping and singing on a branch.
All of a sudden,
snow dropped from the branches of the trees, making a great pile in front of Jeff.
It was like an avalanche.
Jeff clambered up to the top of a white frozen mountain before him, and looking out from the summit, he could see the top of a decorated tree off in the distance, with lights dazzling, twinkling and flickering. Wanting to see more,
Jeff gripped tightly onto the snow pile and stretched himself as tall as he could be.
As his eyes focused on the view before him,
a very different scene came into view.
Different and more exciting than anything he could have ever dreamed of. His eyes were greeted by a glamorous tree which had ruby red, fire orange and emerald green baubles.
It also had shimmery gold and silver tinsel wrapped around it.
Further ahead still was a church with houses scattered around in a small village. Excitedly, he tried to peer closer over the edge of the mound, but slipped and found himself tumbling down the snow. He landed with a bump at the base of a tree, and just before he could do anything else, another huge pile of snow dropped from its branches, but this time landing on his head. While shaking the snow off, he heard distant noises of people singing Christmas carols and the dings of Christmas bells. Looking up, he could see the church with a stained glass window. Jeff moved towards this curiosity with a sense of newfound adventure. Coming closer into view, Jeff could see the window in the church more clearly. It had a picture of a man, woman and a baby. It reminded him of a special story he had once heard about a baby boy named Jesus. He padded through the country snow, further into the village, and saw a beautifully decorated house with a Christmas tree inside the front window. It was decorated in bright fairy lights and baubles of every colour. He began to wonder if this village was always like this, or if this was a special time of the year. He decided to have a closer look. Gazing through the window, he could see jubilant people exchanging maroon red presents, while sitting in front of a blazing bonfire which was encased by stone. Excited children smiled happily as they laid out their glittery stockings by the vast fireplace. His curiosity got the better of him, and he dashed across the road to see what was through another window. He saw a family of 5 huddled in the corner of their spacious living room next to a bright flaming fire holding Christmas mugs of hot steaming cocoa. They were watching a Christmas movie. He stood there for several minutes watching with intrigue.
It looked like paradise and made him feel sad about his burrow. All empty, nobody there except himself.
A deep feeling of loneliness that he had never felt before then entered into his heart, and he longed to go and join the family in front of him. Turning to leave, a tear fell from his eye. Walking further away from this homely village, he began to weep because he felt even more lonely and abandoned than ever before. He trudged back to his tiny empty den and lay there alone, wishing that he could somehow join in with the magical Christmas.
Inside, alone in his burrow, the feeling of isolation was overwhelming for Jeff.
Having seen so much love inside those people's homes made him long to be connected. Long to belong. He just didn't know how.
didn't believe it was possible. Feeling exhausted, Jeff began to fall into a slumber on his tired, lonesome bed. He drifted off into a world filled with hopes for something more.
In his sleep, he was met with a dream filled with thoughts of a Christmas connected with people who loved and accepted him.
While in this dreamy land, something had changed about Jeff's home.
It was warmer, cosier, and more homely, filled with other animals who loved and appreciated him.
Perhaps this was hope for things to come.
Still dreaming, he opened his door to find a young, optimistic hedgehog.
Hello, Mr. Jeff, the hedgehog greeted him. I'm Hazel, and I have a Christmas gift for you. At that moment, his dream faded, and Jeff began to awake with a quiet sense of hope.
Unbeknownst to Jeff, close by in the village, Santa was making his deliveries. Whilst dropping down a particularly narrow chimney, Santa's phone buzzed in his pocket.
Bing, bing! Jeff's Christmas wish had popped up on Santa's wishlist tracker.
He carefully reached for his phone, and whilst holding onto his sack, managed to click on the notification to read all about Jeff's hopes for Christmas.
A hearty smile spread across Santa's face. Jeff's dream about Hazel and an invite to Christmas was something very easy for Santa to sort out.
As a drowsy Jeff woke up on Christmas morning, he was thrilled to venture out into this new day.
Feeling jubilant, he thought deeply about what the day would bring.
His dream had rid him of his feelings of emptiness, and somehow this stranger, Hazel, had left him with optimistic thoughts of new beginnings.
At that moment, Jeff made the decision to go out and seize what the day would bring. He opened his door. A miracle greeted him.
There, on his doorstep, was a handwritten note that started with the words, "Dearest Jeff."
Excitedly, Jeff grasped up the note and devoured the words it contained eagerly.
It was from a hedgehog named Hazel. He had been invited to a Christmas party dinner in the forest with all the other animals that very day. He glanced at the note, confused. He had never celebrated Christmas before.
As hundreds of thoughts concealed his endless mind,
Jeff longed to venture into the open outdoors and feel like he belonged.
Jeff was pacing back and forth
when a single glistening snowflake drifted its way down towards his nose as if it was guiding him.
Was this a sign? Would they like him? Would they welcome him? Reaching for the door handle, Jeff caught sight of some lights dazzling like diamonds in the sky. Slowly, anxiously, cautiously, he emerged from his burrow. Walking through the thick layers of frigid snow, like tiers of a cake, his stomach was in a whirl.
Jeff wanted to abandon those negative feelings and thoughts.
Passing an icy river, he looked at the reflection of his despairing face, which he hoped would turn into a smile. He thought about turning around, but he saw a huge green pine tree. His eyes fixated. On top of it gleamed a gargantuan golden star. He found this strangely nerve-wracking. As he stumbled through the town, twitching nervously, his wet nose was greeted by the festive air. Then peering down the mountain, He was astounded by what he saw.
There was a fascinating sight of a pine tree with grandeur decorations.
A mound of presents sat reflecting light as bright as an angel's halo.
A magical forest stag beckoned to him, showing him the way to the party.
When he arrived, a long wooden table stood at the bottom with engraved animal paw, attracting Jeff's eye.
The aroma of delicious Christmas dinner reaching across the landscape, acorn gravy, sprouts, carrots, roast potato, and juicy glazed turkey.
Cheers of Merry Christmas bellowed in his ears. Jeff became quite overwhelmed. How could this be? Waiting for him was Hazel, beaming with pride.
A grand present appeared in front of his damp snout.
Eagerly, he unwrapped it, like there was no tomorrow. It was a miracle, a Christmas miracle.
A dream come true, a telescope that would allow him to stargaze into the night sky.
Jeff and his new friends spent the rest of the day laughing and spreading Christmas cheer.
That night, Jeff used his new telescope to see the perfectly clear view of the stars. That was the best Christmas ever. And it won't be the last. With complete Christmas contentment, he drifted off into a deep sleep. Merry Christmas, everyone!